Painkiller Ghosts, Chapter 19. It already feels good. Now it's then, and this is how it was. I always saw myself as a little girl, just fed and drowsy, being tucked into some basket with a thin blanket and being set into a creek, like a girl baby Moses, with no destination. And I feel that way these days, still. She's in the living room. She's under her pillows as she's put off the couch, and she's Little Red Hiding Hood. She's sitting there, talking into the darkness to the red light of his cigarette as he's in the dark before he shot himself on the roof, before he fell into the driveway, and she's talking to him earnestly. Tonight she's not scared about anger or distracted by his lust. I always felt abandoned. She rubs her legs that need to be shaved. She has the other hand in her hair that needs to be cut. I've always felt like I gamble when I assume I'm going to have anyone there for me, wherever I am, to fall back onto, to hug for support. Because I don't believe anyone's ever going to be there for me, but also, I guess I've never been there for anyone else either. He throws her a cigarette and a lighter. She lights the cigarette and does not throw the lighter back to him. He smokes quietly. She continues. But the real bitch of it all, and she smiles and then takes a drag off the cigarette, the real kicker is I always hated that when I was in foster care, but was never actually adopted. I mean, she exhales, either way I'd feel rootless. But at least if someone had adopted me, I feel like someone cared. Not just like they wanted some monthly check for keeping kids like me, kids who were sent down the river with a belly of milk and maybe a kiss goodbye, but probably not. She stops talking for a minute and stares at the ceiling. He walks over and looks out the window at nothing and then walks back to where he was. She continues. I once got curious, and that's a lie. Someone I loved once got curious of me. She's lighting a second cigarette, having earlier gotten up from the cushions in a long t-shirt but no underwear or pants, and opened the front door and flicked the other cigarette butt outside, flashing her bare bottom his direction. She goes on. I once got curious because in my early 20s I met someone I thought was the one. You know, the one. The kind you'd walk in front of a train for, the kind the rainbows point towards. You meet them once in a while, but I was young then, younger at least than now, you know. He said he wouldn't be with me unless we would have kids, and I thought about it. I considered it a little. But then he told me he'd never have kids unless he knew their background or lineage or whatever. She smiles a little, like some stupid fluffy poodles in a dog show, I guess. I don't know. I don't care anymore. Ashes fall onto the floor. She's still rubbing her legs. He's quiet, smoke hovering around his head. So I got online a little, but that was what, a decade ago? And the internet wasn't quite like it is now. And I got a phone number and a mailing address. Back in the 90s, something that's good from an internet site. And I started looking into it. I did. Turned out to start a search for some information to natural parents, and not even like their names or whatever, just to find out they were Croatian or Cuban or Cherokee or whatever. Well, it costs a lot of money, and that's something I don't have now, and I definitely didn't have then. But I wrote a bad check, and I sent it in, and it was cashed, and the bank paid it, and I got all sorts of fees, and they shut down my checking account soon afterwards, and the agency still wouldn't give me any information. They blamed it all on bad paperwork prior to the computers, back when the staff wasn't trained back in the 70s. To them, it was a long term in times of record. Documents, a lot were lost, and mine were apparently among those. She stops for a minute and stares out the windows of the dark houses on the street. Yeah. Sometimes I like to know a little bit about them, the people who are my parents. And that sounds funny to me. Parents, because I don't have parents, but I must have parents. How funny. Sometimes I'd like to know a little bit about them, but most of the time, no, I don't think about it. You really don't think about something like that if you've never had it. It's not like I lost my parents. I don't have any. I never had any. In fact, I have no kin, none at all. I don't even know what hospital I was born in. I'm not too certain about the town either. I can't remember if one of my foster parents told me things or over the time. I just told myself so much stuff it just became real in my head. But then, why would I want to find out something about them, these so-called parents of mine? Maybe to find out there's any chance of heart disease, maybe cancer, but that's it really. She lights her last cigarette of the day and stops rubbing her legs. But do you know what I'd say if one or both of them came up to me and introduced themselves? Do you know what I'd say? They both smoke. He's still quiet in the dark. Still the red end of his cigarette and the smoke are the only sign of him. He silently shakes his head. No. I'd lie. I'd look at them and lie and I'd say, I never needed you. And then I'd turn my back and walk away forever like they did to me. That's what I'd do, and that's what I'd say, and I bet it would feel good, real good. In fact, it already feels good. She's smiling now, exhaling smoke from her nose, a gleam in her from her cigarette and her thoughts. It already feels good. She goes on, and this I never thought about until I was a teenager. At the age when most girls are going on dates and having boys feel them, this is what happened. I began to notice that if I were attracted to a guy, he would have similar characteristics as myself. Physically, not personality. But the same eye and skin color, same textured hair, same fingers and nose. And then I woke up one day thinking that these guys I was attracted to could very well be related to me somehow. We were in the same state, same part of the state. I thought it was a chance that I didn't want to take. I didn't want to accidentally sleep with my brother. And that's where I'm forever trapped in a way. I think when most men and women meet, they ask themselves if they find the other person attractive sexually. And then most likely make sure that person doesn't say their cousin or their brother. I can never do that. And she goes on. In those dreams, when my parents show up, they're always different. Sometimes they would be a happy couple, all smiles, looking just like me. And they'd have 4 or 5 of their kids with them. And here's the kicker. Half the kids would be older than me, and the other half younger. And I look at them and I think, why them? Why not me? And all the others, my siblings, my lost brothers and sisters, will look at me and laugh. And that's when I'll lie and I'll say, I never wonder about you. And close the door on them. Other times, it's just 2 people, a woman, a man, and they're dressed well and tall and all but faceless, but not headless, but faceless. I open the door, and where there would be a mouth, nose, and eyes, is as if they've pulled up their necks to cover their faces' features. And they try to hug me, and I tell them, I don't want you. And I close the door, and they don't knock. They turn and leave. I lie to them. I lie to them about missing them, about wanting them. And then sometimes it is just a man holding a photo of a woman that I look a lot like. He's knocking on the door. There are tears in his eyes. He sees me and he cries out, "Is just like your mother alive again. Bless her soul. You're her alive again." And he stops looking at me and just looks down the photo and cries and cries. And then he refuses to look at me and he turns and leaves, not saying anything. And for him abandoning me again, I look at him descending the sidewalk. And because he didn't tell me anything new, or at all even, I watch him leave and whisper, "I don't care about you." And then I start to feel better. It already feels good just talking about it. Maybe I'll have another dream about them. 3 days ago I had a dream that I was at the beach and it was chilly. Too cold for many people to be at the beach. Only some walkers, joggers, maybe a cop on an ATV every once in a while. I was in a sweatshirt. I can't remember what color, but I want to think green, and I was in a pair of jeans. I remember feeling that I'm chilly, that the wind is coming out from over the ocean, and it's just freezing. It burns my cheeks, especially when it whips up the sand and it all hits me. In my dream, I even have the grit from the sand in my teeth. It crunches in my mouth. I'm standing there, facing the wind, watching the waves, the white foam, the birds holding still midair, and the tremendous nor'easter gusts. And then I notice something in the waves, floating around, getting pushed in, then back out. And that's when I think that it's shaped like a body. But it must be a child or woman because it's not too big and it appears to be clothed. I get up. I have cold sand in my nose, in my hair, and my ears. I can feel the grit. I walk down to the beach and I flip off my shoes and hold up my pants a little but still get wet. And I walk a little into those cold, dark waves. And then, yes, it is a body and it's not a child but a woman. And I'll be ready to scream when I notice that she's smiling and her eyes are open and she looks just like me, only older and bloated from drowning. And I know it's her. It's my mother. She doesn't move or say anything. She's dead. Real dead. My lost mother found and still dead to me. And I'll lie again and I say, I won't miss you. And with my left foot, kick the fish-eaten, bloated skin back into the waves, and I run, and I run, and I go somewhere safe, and it feels good. I feel like I buried her myself, however odd and sick that sounds, but I already feel warmer, stronger, better. It already feels good. And something else that's hard for people to get over. She's still talking to the man, now very dead like the mother in the water in her dreams. But he's still smoking. He's not worried about cancer. She's still talking. She's not thinking about suicide. She goes on. It's when I'm sitting in a bar, and I know I'm good looking, let's be straight here. I know the guys just want to put their dicks in me, and not just me, in any woman. There's a smile from across the room. But I'll go to a bar. I go alone a lot. I'll buy my first drink, and then some guy, older, will buy my next one. And he'll say something like, I'm a lawyer. What are you? And what can I say back? I'm not some scholar, not some model, not a mother, not a wife, not a Christian, not a Jew, not an artist, not a graduate. I don't even have a job. So I'll tell them what I am. I tell them I'm an orphan, and they squirm. I'm a rootless, drifting orphan. They squirm in their seats, especially men who are, say, 15 to 23 years older than me. You can see it in their eyes, behind the glaives and the beer and the smoky bar air. You can see them looking at me and making sure I don't look familiar. They're never really sure what happened to that girl they banged 3 times in 1 week a long time ago who just disappeared. They squirm like a bug. And then I make them really squirm. I tell them I'm a virgin. They're looking at me, unemployed, a 30-something-year-old virgin, but dressed showing cleavage to pay my way home if I need to, and they drink their beer quickly and leave. They usually end up being cheap tippers anyway. I always feel sorry for the bartenders. She just looks at the ceiling for a bit, smiling at the memories. She goes on. So if these people, 2 of them, walked into this room, over to this sofa, and tried to talk to me, tried to explain themselves to me, this is what I'd have to do. I'd have to take a deep breath and say, you are never in my dreams. That's what I say. I'd lie, and it would feel good. So good. It already feels good, and I haven't even done it yet. She'd lie, and it already feels good. So good.